They say the dead rest in peace. Whoever said that has never seen what I've seen. Because in my world, the dead don't sleep. They linger. They watch. They whisper your name until you can't breathe. The first time it happened, I was 17. I woke in the middle of the night to find my grandmother standing at the foot of my bed. Her eyes were hollow, her lips sewn shut by shadows. She had died 3 days before. I told myself it was grief, that my mind was playing tricks. But I knew, deep down, it WSN, single quotes T. Years have passed since then. Yet the veil between worlds hasn't left me alone. The ghosts follow me. They wait in mirrors, slip between trees, press cold fingers against my spine when no one else is looking. I've learned to hide it, to pretend I don't see what I see. But it's always there, like a storm brewing just out of sight. And then came the night that changed everything. I live on the edge of town, where the streetlights fade and the forest begins. My house is small, a place meant for one person, though it often feels like too many live there, the living and the dead. That night the air was heavier than usual, the kind that tastes like rain before it falls. I couldn't sleep. The walls felt too close, so I stepped outside. Barefoot, the gravel cool under my skin. The woods loomed like a black ocean, every branch a skeletal hand. I should have turned back. Instead, I followed the pull like something, or someone was waiting. And that's when I saw him. At first, I thought it was another ghost. A pale shape crouched between the trees. But then it moved, too solid, too real. The moon slid through the clouds and I froze. He wasn't a ghost. He was a wolf, massive, silver-eyed, his fur glowing faintly as if it carried the moonlight in its strands. My breath caught in my throat. I should have screamed, should have run, but I couldn't. His eyes locked on mine, and in that single glance, I felt something I had never known before. Recognition. A bond sharp and electric, as though I had been waiting my whole life to see him. The wolf stepped closer, muscles rippling beneath his coat. My heart pounded, yet I didn't move. For some reason, I wasn't afraid. I was drawn. His presence filled the air, thick and undeniable, wrapping around me like fire. Then he shifted. Bones cracked, fur receded, and in seconds, where the wolf had stood, a man rose. Tall, broad-shouldered, his skin damp with the shift, his breath fogging in the cold night. His eyes, those same silver eyes, burned into me. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low, rough, commanding. I stumbled back, words tangled on my tongue. What are you?" He smirked as though amused by my question. "The real one you should be asking is, what are you?" The night seemed to close around us. And before I could respond, the air shifted. Cold. Wrong. The familiar chill of the dead pressed against my neck, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw her, my grandmother's ghost again, staring at me from the shadows, her finger pointing straight at the man before me. He noticed, his jaw clenched, eyes narrowing, as if he could see her too. My chest tightened. No one ever saw what I saw. No one ever believed me. But he did. He took a step forward, lowering his voice, softer this time. "You can't keep running from them. They won't stop, and now, neither will I." The weight of his words sank into me, heavy and uncheckable. Something told me this wasn't a warning. It was a promise. The wind surged, the trees shuddered, and I realized the truth. My life was no longer my own. I wasn't just haunted by the dead. I was bound to him, to this alpha with silver eyes. And whatever fate tied us together, it had only just begun. I couldn't sleep that night. Or maybe I didn't want to. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the eyes glowing, the memory of his presence burning into my skin. I told myself it was just adrenaline, just fear, that deep down, I knew it was something else. Something impossible. Morning came too quickly, and with it, the weight of reality. I walked through the small town, pretending to be normal, but every shadow seemed to watch me. Every whisper of the wind carried his voice, low and commanding, echoing in my mind. You can't run from them. Neither will I. I tried to ignore it. Tried to convince myself that maybe the forest, the wolf, the silver-eyed man, it had all been a hallucination. But I didn't need a mirror to see it. The bond had left its mark. A pulse, faint but undeniable, throbbed through my veins, like a thread tying me to him, twisting my heart with every beat. And then he appeared. I was at the edge of town, near the small cafe I frequented. The bell over the door rang, and I froze. There he was, walking in as if he belonged, tall and human, though his presence felt anything but ordinary. Every eye in the cafe seemed to fade around him. Every sound dimmed until only he existed. You ran from me, he said. Not a question, not an accusation, just a fact. My lips parted, but nothing came out. How could I explain that my heart was already betraying me, that I was trembling in a way I couldn't control, that I didn't even know him, yet every part of me recognized him? You're real, I whispered finally, as if saying it aloud could make it stop. He smiled, faint, almost tender, though it didn't reach the intensity in his eyes. More than real. I've been searching for you. I wanted to ask why, wanted to run again, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. The air between us thrummed with a strange, magnetic tension that made my stomach ache. It wasn't fear. Not entirely. It was attraction. Dangerous, forbidden, and impossible to resist. You shouldn't be here, I managed, voice trembling. Whatever this is, can't be real. He reached out, his hand brushing mine. Heat flared where skin met skin. My breath caught. My heart slammed against my ribs. It was a touch that carried promise and warning all at once. Do you feel it? He asked softly, eyes locking onto mine. The pull? The bond? I swallowed, unable to deny it. My entire being screamed yes, but the thought terrified me. Bonding. In legends, it meant a lifetime. A claim, an unbreakable tie. And here I was, 18, facing a man who could mark me forever. Why me? I whispered, almost to myself. He hesitated, and for a moment, vulnerability flickered across his face. Because you're mine, and because they won't leave you alone. I can't let them. I wanted to ask who, why, but something in his tone silenced me. His words were a shield and a weapon, both at once. I felt both terrified and inexplicably safe, an impossible contradiction that made my chest ache. And then the air shifted. I caught it before he did a flicker of movement in the corner of the cafe window. My grandmother, or something like her. The ghost. Watching. Waiting. And I realized with a cold surge of dread that it wasn't just my life that was at risk. He noticed it too. His eyes narrowed, lips pressing into a thin line. For a moment he looked less human and more Alpha. My Alpha. Power rolled off him in waves, enough to make my stomach twist and my hair lift. You see her, he said, his voice low, dangerous. Good, you need to see them. You need to understand why I'm here. I nodded mutely, fear and desire warring in my chest. The bond pulsed hotter, tighter, like it was trying to pull me into him, into something I didn't fully understand yet. You won't be alone, he said, softer now, leaning closer. I'll keep you safe. From them. from everything that wants to claim you. His words were a promise I didn't know I wanted, but needed. And when he brushed his fingers against my jaw, I felt it a spark, a fire, a connection that wasn't meant to be ignored. The bell over the cafe door rang again, though no one entered. I shivered. The ghosts were close, but now, so was he. And I knew, in the marrow of my bones, that nothing would ever be the same. I was bound to him, and the world I thought I knew was gone forever. I thought I understood the danger. I thought seeing ghosts and feeling the pull of the alpha was terrifying enough. I was wrong. The night it happened, I was back at the edge of the forest, drawn again by that inexplicable force I couldn't resist. My pulse thudded in my ears. Every rustle of leaves made me jump. But this time, I wasn't alone. Kale, my alpha, was there before me, emerging from the shadows as if he had stepped from my own heartbeat. His eyes, those silver moons that burned with a mix of desire and fury, never left mine. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, voice low, warning sharp as claws. "I had to," I whispered, teeth chattering. "They won't leave me alone. The ghosts there." My voice faltered. "They're different now. Angry. Focused." Kale's gaze sharpened. "They sense something inside you. Something dangerous. Something only I can protect." I wanted to argue, to demand explanation, but the forest seemed to press in around us. The shadows thickened, and from the darkness, I felt it. A presence older than death itself. Cold. Hungry. Watching. Then I saw her, the first ghost I had ever met. My grandmother, or what she had become. Her face twisted, accusing, eyes hollow. She raised a hand, pointing not at me this time, but at him. Kale stiffened. The hair on his neck rose. "They're warning me," he muttered, more to himself than to me. "They sense you're in danger. And it's coming from them." I frowned, confused. "From who?" Before he could answer, another figure stepped from the shadows, pale, impossibly beautiful, with a presence that sucked the warmth from the air. The vampire I had glimpsed before. His eyes, deep crimson, fixed on me with an intensity that made my chest tighten. "You don't belong with him," he said smoothly. "You belong free. Free from the alpha. Free from the ghosts. Free from the chains no one warned you about." Kale growled, low and dangerous, his wolf instinct surfacing in a way that made the forest tremble. "Stay back. She's mine." My stomach twisted. I should have been afraid of him, of Kale, of the ghosts, but instead I felt torn, pulled in two directions at once. One promised safety, protection, a bond I didn't fully understand, but that ignited a fire in me I couldn't resist. The other promised freedom, a life without the pull of destiny, without danger, but also without the intensity that made my heart beat faster than my lungs could keep up. "You don't understand," I whispered, stepping between them. "I can't choose yet, because I don't know what's right." The vampire smirked, moving closer, his hand ghosting just above mine. The air sizzled where our auras touched. "Then let me show you. Let me teach you what it means to be truly free." Kale's wolf form rippled beneath his human skin, and I realized he was warning me, not just of the vampire, but of myself, of the fire that threatened to consume me if I gave in. His hand found mine suddenly, firm and possessive, and the heat of him burned through me. "You don't get it," he said, voice rough, low. "You're not just being hunted. You're chosen. Bound. And if you walk away, if you doubt us now, it could destroy everything." "I won't let it happen." The ghosts circled closer, their whispers like nails on glass. "They cannot take her. She belongs. She belongs." The words overlapped with Kale's own, and my head spun. My heart, my body wanted both, feared both, knew both were impossible. And then the shock came. The vampire leaned closer, whispering in my ear a name I had never heard before. But that set something cold and aching in my chest. You were meant for me first. My knees went weak. My mouth went dry. What do you mean? I asked, voice trembling. Cale's hand tightened around mine like iron. He's lying, he said through clenched teeth, jaw taut. You were never his to claim. Not fully. Not legally. Not ever. But he wants to make you think otherwise. To make you doubt me. I felt betrayed. I felt fear. I felt desire, confusion, and heartbreak all at once. Every part of me screamed to flee, to run from the intensity, from the danger, from the fire burning between me and Cale. Yet I couldn't. I didn't want to. I don't know what to do, I admitted, voice breaking. I can't. Cale pressed his forehead to mine, silver eyes boring into mine. You don't have to. Not yet, but you will feel it. The bond. The pull. It's stronger than fear. Stronger than lies. Stronger than the dead. And when you feel it, you'll know. You'll know who you are. And who you belong to. The night pressed closer. The ghosts whispered. The vampire waited. A predator in the shadows. And I realized, with a sinking dread and an impossible thrill, that there was no turning back. The choice had already been made for me. I was bound. Not just by destiny. Not just by fire. Not just by the pull of a silver-eyed alpha. I was bound by desire, by danger, and by the undeniable truth that I had already fallen completely, irrevocably for him. And whatever came next would either claim me or destroy me entirely. I thought I understood danger. I thought I understood fear. I was wrong. The night began like any other. I was standing at the edge of the forest, heart still pounding from the earlier confrontation with the vampire. Cale had been silent all evening, his silver eyes shadowed, unreadable. The pull between us was unbearable, a fire beneath my skin I could neither resist nor escape. And then it happened. I heard a scream. Sharp, piercing, human, but also not. The sound carried through the trees, slicing through the night. Without thinking, I ran toward it, my feet carrying me through the underbrush as if my body had a will of its own. Cale appeared beside me in an instant, full form towering, fur bristling, eyes glowing in the moonlight. He growled, low and warning, as the shadows of the forest shifted unnaturally around us. The ghosts, so many of them, whispered, shrieking, pressing against the edges of my mind. Something was wrong. Something terrible. We reached the clearing. And there he was, the vampire. But not alone. Behind him, tied and struggling, was someone I thought I'd never see again. My best friend, the one who had disappeared months ago. Her eyes wide with terror, lips trembling. You shouldn't have followed me, the vampire said, voice smooth, deadly. But you're mine tonight. All of you. Cale snarled, shifting mid-step, claws digging into the dirt. He lunged at the vampire, and the world exploded into movement. Shadows collided with silver fur. Teeth flashed, and I was frozen, caught between fear, desire, and a pulse-pounding need to act. Go! Cale shouted. His voice thundered in my chest. Take her away now. But I couldn't move. My eyes were locked on him, on his raw, unrestrained power, on the feral gleam in his eyes, on the way he moved like he was part predator, part protector, and completely mine. My heart leapt, and in that moment, I did something I never expected. I stepped toward him. Before I knew it, we were close, too close. His breath fanned my face. I could smell the forest, The wolf, the blood, and the fire that had always simmered between us. And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was everything I had feared and longed for all at once. His lips pressed to mine with a force that stole my breath and shook my very bones. I should have pulled away. I should have resisted. But I didn't. I couldn't. The world narrowed to just us, just the fire burning between us, and for a heartbeat. Nothing else mattered. Not the vampire, not the ghosts, not the danger. Only him. Only the undeniable truth that we were bound together. In blood, in soul, in fire. But then the scream returned. Louder. Closer. And reality crashed back. Cale pulled away, eyes blazing with a mixture of fury and pain. No distractions, he growled, voice sharp as steel. Not now. We end this tonight. The vampire lunged. Cale met him with a roar that split the night. And suddenly, I was caught in the storm of their battle. Shadows twisted, teeth flashed, claws raked. The forest itself seemed alive, writhing around us, feeding off the tension, feeding off the bond that tied me to him. And then, betrayal. I heard it before I saw it, my friend's voice, weak and trembling. I can't fight him. He made me. Her words faltered. A confession that froze me where I stood. The vampire had used her as bait to lure me here. Rage tore through me, hot and blinding. No, I screamed. You won't touch her. Cale glanced at me, eyes locking with mine, and I felt it, the pull. The bond flaring hotter than ever, demanding my trust, my surrender, my heart. And in that instant, I realized the terrifying truth. My choices weren't just mine anymore. They were tied to him, to the bond, to the fire between us. I ran forward, toward Cale, toward the fight, toward the dangerous, impossible thing I wanted more than life itself. And as I reached him, the vampire hissed, retreating slightly, shadows curling around him like smoke. But I knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Cale caught my hand, gripping it tightly, and for a fleeting second, the world narrowed again. You shouldn't have done that, he whispered, voice rough and shaking with something I couldn't name. Neither should you. I breathed back, my lips brushing his ear, heart hammering, and just like that, everything changed. The night had shifted. Nothing would ever be the same again. The ghosts watched silently. The vampire disappeared into the shadows, and the forest held its breath. But I knew one thing with terrifying clarity. Whatever came next, whatever battle awaited us, we were bound together now, fire and blood and desire. And nothing could untangle that. Except the cost. And I had no idea how high it would be. The night was alive with danger. Every shadow in the forest seemed to breathe, whispering threats, daring me to turn and run. But I couldn't run. Not anymore. Not with him. Not with the bond between us screaming that I belonged heart, soul, and blood to Cale. We were cornered. The vampire had returned, stronger, angrier, flanked by a swirl of restless spirits that clawed at the edges of reality. His eyes burned red in the dark. Fixated on me as if I were a prize he refused to relinquish. And my friend, trembling and pale, was caught in his grip, a puppet of shadows, pleading silently with her eyes for me to save her. Cale's wolf form towered beside me, muscles coiled, fur bristling with power. His silver eyes glowed brighter than ever, locking on the vampire with raw, unbridled intensity. Let her go, he growled, his voice a promise and a threat all at once. The vampire laughed, cruel and sharp, his fangs glinting in the moonlight. You think you can protect her? You've claimed her, Yes, but she's mine to tempt, mine to take. And tonight, you will see that your claim is meaningless. Something cold and heavy lodged in my chest. Fear, desperation, the knowledge that I could lose everything I had already given my heart to. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. My heart hammered with a clarity I hadn't felt before. I would fight, even if it meant losing myself. Cale shifted closer, and instinctively I reached for him. Our hands met, fingers intertwining, and the bond flared hotter than fire. It pulsed through me, filling me with courage, with desire, with a fierce, protective energy I didn't know I possessed. You are mine, Cale whispered, pressing his forehead to mine. And I will burn the world down before I let anyone take you from me. The vampire snarled and lunged, and the forest erupted into chaos. Cale's claws flashed, teeth tore through shadows, and the spirits that circled us screamed, drawn to the fire between us. I tried to help, tried to push back, but it was as if the shadows themselves fought against me, feeding off my fear. And then it happened. The vampire's gaze locked on me. His fangs glinted. He moved faster than anything I could anticipate, and before I could react, he lunged not at Cale, but at me. My stomach dropped as I realized the truth. He wanted me. All of me. My life, my soul, my heart. Cale roared, shifting fully into his wolf form, and barreled into him. They collided with a force that threw me back against a tree. Pain lanced through my arm, but I barely noticed. I was watching him, the man who had become my world, my obsession, my tether to life, and I realized the impossible. I could lose him. I couldn't. Instinct overtook fear. I stepped forward, chanting the words Cale had once whispered in my ear. The ancient alpha words of protection, of binding. I felt the power flare inside me, connecting to him, our bond blazing hotter than ever. The vampire recoiled, startled by the intensity, and Cale took the chance, fangs sinking, claws ripping, until the darkness finally shrieked and scattered like smoke in the wind. We were standing in the ruins of the battle, panting, bodies trembling. The spirits faded, retreating into the night, leaving only the two of us. My arm throbbed, my chest burned, my legs shook, but I was alive. And so was he. Cale's wolf shifted back to human form, and he collapsed beside me, catching me in his arms. You did that, he whispered, voice hoarse. You were incredible. You saved her. You saved me. Tears blurred my vision as I pressed against him, unable to speak. The truth was heavier than words. I had faced death, faced the vampire's hunger, faced my deepest fears, and I had chosen him. Chosen us. Chosen the bond, the fire, the impossible love that neither of us could deny. I thought I'd lose you, I murmured, my voice breaking. I can't lose you. He tilted my chin, his silver eyes soft but fierce. You won't, not now, not ever. We're bound together, in life, in blood, in everything that comes after. And no one, not ghosts, not monsters, not even the darkness itself, will take you from me. I felt it then. The pull of our bond, stronger than anything I had ever known, searing through me, tying my soul to his. Desire, fear, love, and trust all tangled into one consuming, unstoppable force. And in that moment, I realized the ultimate truth. I was no longer afraid, because whatever came next, whatever battles awaited, I would face them with him. Not as a girl haunted by ghosts, not as someone hunted or claimed, but as someone bound, irrevocably and passionately, to the alpha who had captured my heart and my soul forever. Yet, even in the aftermath, the forest still whispered warnings. The vampire was gone. For now. But the danger had not ended. The ghosts had not finished their work. And somewhere, in the shadows, new threats waited, hungering for the bond we had forged in fire. But I didn't care. I had Kale. And that was enough to make the world feel limitless, terrifying and breathtaking all at once. I pressed my forehead to his, whispering against his lips, "We'll survive. Together." And he smiled. A raw, wolfish, human smile that promised fire, passion, and danger. "Together," he echoed. The dawn broke softly over the forest, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. But it didn't feel like the same world I had stepped into the night before. The air was quiet now, almost unnervingly so, as if the night itself had held its breath and finally let it out. Kale and I stood together in the clearing, his hand still gripping mine. His silver eyes softer now, but still alive with the intensity that had first drawn me to him. The forest seemed calmer, the ghosts my grandmother and the others retreating like waves, leaving the shore. For the first time, I felt a sense of stillness that wasn't forced, that wasn't layered with fear. We had survived. Somehow, through blood, fire, and danger, we had survived. But survival was only part of the story. I looked at him, the man who had become my anchor, my desire, my destiny, and I realized how much we had changed. He had protected me, yes, but in the process, I had learned to fight too, to trust not just in him, but in the bond that connected us, in the fire that had been ignited the first moment our eyes met. "I never thought I'd see the forest this calm again," I said, voice trembling, a mixture of awe and relief. "Or feel this. Alive. Safe. Connected." Kale's hand brushed my cheek, rough from battle, warm, solid. "We're bound," he said softly, almost reverently. "You and me. Nothing can break that now, not ghosts, not vampires, not the shadows that lurk in the corners of the world. You're mine, and I'm yours." I swallowed, tears pricking my eyes. I had been haunted, hunted, and tested in ways no one could understand. And yet, here I was, standing in the morning light with the man who had claimed my heart, my soul, and now, my life. The danger hadn't ended completely. I knew that. The vampire had vanished, but his hunger and cunning would linger. And the ghosts, well, they had their unfinished business. But for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. I had Kale, and together we were unbreakable. I let myself step closer to him, letting my hands rest on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath my palms. The bond flared, warm and steady, and I understood something I had only felt in fragments before. Love wasn't just passion or desire. Love was strength. It was survival. It was the fire that burned even in the darkest shadows. "You know," I said, leaning my forehead against his, "I think they'll leave us alone now. At least, for a while." He chuckled softly, a deep, vibrating sound that made my chest tighten. "For a while," he agreed. "But even if they come back, we face it together. Always." The bond pulsed again, insistent, and I felt it a promise beyond words, beyond fear, beyond everything I had known. It wasn't just about the present. It was about all the nights to come, the battles we would face, and the love we would fight for, no matter the cost. I thought about the vampire, about the shadows that had haunted me, about the fear that had once made me tremble. And I realized something profound. Those moments had shaped me. They had pushed me to my limits, forced me to confront truths about courage, desire, and the fire that lived inside me. I wasn't the same girl who had stepped into the forest weeks ago. I was stronger, braver, and bound by something far greater than fear. Kale's hand found mine again, fingers entwining, and he pressed a soft kiss to the top of my head. "You're incredible," he whispered. "And you're mine. Forever. Forever." The word rolled over me like a wave, heavy and full of meaning. It wasn't just a promise, it was a declaration, a certainty in a world that had once felt unpredictable and cruel. And in that certainty I felt a peace I had never known. I looked around the forest one last time, taking in the sunlight filtering through the trees, the quiet rustle of leaves, the fading whispers of the spirits who had once chased me. And I smiled, a small, knowing smile that carried both relief and anticipation. The world was still dangerous. Yes, but it was ours. We had survived, we had loved, and we had bound ourselves together in a way nothing could undo. I turned back to Cale, feeling the pulse of our bond, the heat of his presence, the undeniable pull of our hearts. "No matter what comes next," I said, voice steady, "we face it together." He pulled me into his arms fully, and I rested my head against his chest, feeling the steady strength of him, the unshakable certainty of the bond. "Together," he repeated, and this time it wasn't just a promise. It was a vow. As the sunlight touched the forest floor, I realized something I would carry forever. Love wasn't safe. Love wasn't easy. Love was fire. But it was the fire worth everything, worth fear, worth sacrifice, worth fighting for. And I had it, here in my arms, in my heart, in the silver-eyed alpha who had claimed me, body and soul. The forest was quiet. The ghosts had receded, and yet the world still held shadows. But I didn't care. I had faced them. I had survived. And I had him, and that was enough.